Sharks drew first blood as Dean Carney put Craig Diamond into the clear, and he left the East defence in his wake to score near the post, giving the Sharks an 8-0 lead at half-time. And that lead was increased in the second half through an East error. Tony Melrose's grubber kick resulted in a Sharks try at the other end of the Sydney Sports Ground. Phil Hurst left a despairing Laurie Spina in his wake, racing 90 metres to give Cronulla a match-winning lead. The final score at the Sports Ground, 16-6 to Cronulla. And down south at the Wollongong Showground, the Illawarra Steelers made a good start when replacement Jeff Hardy sent Brian Hetherington into the gap, and the big centre was then able to stand in the tackle and send Hardy, who backed up well over near the post. Norths came back to score the easiest of tries. Mark Cannon got the ball and feigned a kick, and all of the Steelers stood off him as he strolled over to score. North sneaking home 15-12 in a close one.
The Premiership table tonight sees South Sydney, Cronulla, Penrith, Manly, Balmain, Norths and Parramatta all recipients of 2 points. Next weekend, here's what's coming up for you. Canterbury, Cronulla is on Saturday. Canberra, Balmain, South Illawarra, Norths, Wests, East Penrith. The big one is Parramatta St George, our telecast game at Parramatta Stadium, and Manly has the bye. Well, there it is. What an exciting start to the Rugby League year. First off, there was that win by Balmain over Cronulla in the National Panasonic. South defeating St George on Friday night. Then on Saturday, Manly defeating Canberra in a match which really was one where the reputations were on the line. And then Balmain defeating the defending premiers Canterbury. That's all for now. I hope to see you when next we go around on This Week of Rugby League.
At Ronson Field, drop ball by both sides marred the fast-moving match. South paid the penalty first, though. Moon couldn't pass, Webb couldn't clean up, and Cronulla's Andrew Eddinghausen couldn't make up his mind for a moment, but then went himself. Midway through the second half, a skillful around-the-corner pass from reserve Mark Ellenson to skipper Greg Nixon put the Sharks further ahead. And then just a couple of minutes from the siren, it was Eddinghausen again. As it happened, it didn't matter that he cleverly accepted that forward pass from Errol Hillier to scoot into the corner and wrap it up 14-0.
At the Seaford Oval, Don Furner's Canberra Raiders proved their midweek success was no fluke, with their first premiership win of the season over Cronulla Sutherland. The Raiders scored 2 first-half tries to lead by 10 points to 0 at the break. Big Test centre Mal Meninga had a hand in both the tries, scored by O'Sullivan and fullback Gary Belcher. The Sharks did come back in the second half with tries by Carney and Docking, but Canberra always had the buffer and ran out easy winners by 26 points to 12. Continuing the Sharks' run of outs at Seaford Oval.
There's the
Parramatta stayed on top of the table, still unbeaten, with a relentless display against Cronulla. It took them a quarter of an hour to crack the Sharks when Brett Kenny slipped through the defence. The Parramatta machine rolled on 7 minutes later when Paul Mears went down the blind side before slipping a clever pass to Brian Jackson, who was now in the clear. With support on both sides, he chose Paul Taylor, and with Steve Eller's conversion, the Eels now led 12-0. There was more to come. Skipper Ray Price was too slippery for the defence and wriggled over from dummy half, and it was 18-0 at the break. The Eels went on with it when they scored a classic team try. The ball went through 5 sets of hands before Steve Eller finished it to celebrate his first match back from England. Parramatta were playing outstanding football to lead 24-0. But to their credit, Cronulla never stopped trying, and they saved a whitewash when replacement centre Jim C was sent on his way by Andrew Eddinghausen. C just managed to beat a tied Steve Eller tackle before scoring the try. Parramatta wrapped up the scoring when quick hands saw replacement winger Graham Atkins slip across to complete a most impressive 28-6 win by the competition leaders.
At Brookvale Oval, the Sea Eagles drew first blood 14 minutes in when Mitchell Cox throws a long ball for Cleo, who gives it on to Big Chris Close, who in turn finds Phil Blake, who's able to improve his position, giving Manly the lead 6-2. 16 minutes later, Manly again swing the ball out wide and another promising raid that looks to come undone when Shearer loses the ball. But Blake is jogging on the spot to pick up the scraps to score his second try. The Sea Eagles went to the break with a handy 16-4 lead when Hasler and Cleo combined to work the blind side. The Sharks bit back with 2 quick tries in the second half. The first, a great solo effort full of determination from Michael Porter. However, the in-form Manly weren't to be denied when Cleo crossed for his second try, giving the Sea Eagles victory 24 points to 12.
The local Southside derby at Ronson Field had a sensational start. After just 3 tackles in the match, the Sharks scored. Chris Whittle's kick downfield was touched in flight by a St George player, which put Michael Porter, who was in front of Whittle, onside. Porter went ahead before drawing fullback Glenn Burgess and finding halfback Paul Kennedy, who then combined with winger Phil Doty before Kennedy backed up to score a shock try. From then on, though, it was no frills slogging football. Steve Balmain dropped a field goal to put the Saints on the board. And then Dean Carney, playing his 100th game, sent Cronulla to half-time with a 6-1 lead. But ironically, the match winner for the Saints was Steve Funnell, who plays first-grade cricket for the Sutherland club. Funnell crashed his way over near the post, and with Michael O'Connor's conversion, the Saints were in front for the first time, 7 points to 6. Michael O'Connor edged the Dragons another point ahead with a planned field goal, and the Saints held on to win 8 points to 6 in a Dow struggle.
8-6 at half-time at the Endeavour Field last Sunday. The entire Sharks front row of Porter, Withall and Wheeler produced top games in the second half to demolish the Steelers. Very unsatisfactory game for them, 28-8. And a big disappointment with the Steelers. They looked set to start recording some good wins, and then the return of skipper David Hatch to the Cronulla topside gave the team the necessary leadership. Withall opened up with a very, very good try. You're going to see it in a few moments' time as Ettinghausen just went a fraction too far there. I thought he had support and could have unloaded. But you're going to see fairly shortly a very good run by Withall, and he was, I thought, quite definitely the outstanding player in the match, having watched the full extent of it. Nice pass out to Larder there, and Larder, the fullback, showing a clean pair of heels, goes right through the gap there. He also institutes a try later in the game. As you'll see, this Illawarra side can attack. They've got the ability to go up the sideline as they did on this occasion with, again, Larder, and a lovely long pass on the inside to Mackie, and Mackie in for a try. So that was the way it was, 8-6 at that particular stage. The Cronulla team never short of throwing the ball around. They do like to keep the ball alive, and that's a good thing to see. And then there was this awful defence came on the, I think what I like to call it is distemper. The Illawarra side got defensive distemper in the second half and just failed to tackle, and it was a pretty horrid situation. But they come up with a try here from a little kick that ricocheted, and they come up with another try here from a Ellison pass onto the other prop forward. And then the third try, and this is a soft one, Hatch. And he goes in and scores the try there. And, of course, the Illawarra side can't throw stupid passes because Doty there is very, very quick, and he's able to run 75 yards if he takes an intercept of that nature. McIndoe chased him from the other wing, but there was never going to be the possibility of him catching him with such a start. A couple of things out of the game. The good play here from the Cronulla side, the way they can keep the ball alive. Ettinghausen pulling it in from above his head, gets it out to Doty. Doty gets a lob pass back inside to Ettinghausen, who again pulls off a nice take on the top way above the head. He's able to go a little bit further, but that was the one I said that I thought he should have passed on the outside. He had support one way and then the other, and I think probably he should not have taken the tackle. Now, Withall goes and puts Speechley through. Now, this is Withall, number 12. Watch the one-handed pass to put his centre through the gap. Now, that's clever play, and Speechley got plenty of pace. He's only a young player. I've only seen him play a couple of times in the first grade for Cronulla, but on this occasion, he takes Larder on, and Larder's defence is equal to the task. Continuing on with another near try, and this is an excellent tackle again from Larder, who I've mentioned about 3 times. Here it is, and that's a first-class tackle on Ellison, the player who looked just as though he was going to score about underneath the posts. A good Cronulla, a bit of evasion here. I put this in because I can never do anything like this myself, but I love to see footballers so light on their feet. Watch Doty. He actually runs backwards here, and then he goes forwards again. And that's a clever bit of football from the young wing three-quarter, who Jack Gibson's got a very, very big rap on. He seems to consider him a player very much of the future. Now, this near try to Ettinghausen, and we're going to see a very strong bit of defence, and that name I keep mentioning, Larder. Watch him come over and bang him over the sideline, not over the sideline, nearly out of the ground. Knocked him about 7 or 8 yards over the side there, and Larder's name, as you'll recollect, keeps coming up. This young fella came from Darwin originally. I think he wanted to play with Manly, and then for some reason he got sick and tired of the big smoke and went back to Darwin, and now he's turned up at Cronulla and Illawarra and doing very well. And again, showing his very good reflexes, It looks like intercepts are all the go these days. It was a Mannix pass that went astray, and Doty shows a clean pair of heels and is able to take it on right down the field, 75 yards away. Just in mid-glass of water there. So that was a good game if you're a Cronulla supporter. A hell of a game for the Illawarra coach Smith, because he's seen his side fall very much in a heap. Well, the wheel has temporarily come off the St George machine. I say temporarily, and that got myself nice and angry. We'll continue on about the Western Suburbs game. Western Suburbs shrugged off 2 recent defeats and confirmed that they can beat the world at Lidcombe Oval by walloping Cronulla, would you believe it, 35-18, an astonishing score. The game was as good as over after 23 minutes as the Magpies scampered over for 3 tries to lead 18-2 after that 23-minute period. Magpies coach Steve Goshen gambled with England halfback Derek Fox. You'll see him playing in number 20. And shifting the informed Brett Clark to the wing. The fans didn't like the switch, however, Fox played very well and laid on with Crooks, the other big Englishman, for many of these subtleties for the win by the Western Suburbs side. So Goshen's gamble definitely paid off. And this young fella, Sheehan, is one of the best young wing 3-quarters going around in Sydney Rugby League at the moment. He's pretty quick, he knows the way to the line, he's got very good hands. That was one of the rare occasions that Cronulla were able to get themselves going forward, with Diamond coming up with a try, a field goal from Crooks on that occasion. And that was a good one. Now you'll see Doty drop the ball here and get himself nicely in trouble, because Schubert was able to get the ball up to Nader, and he goes in and scores the try. And there's Petherbridge coming in on the inside and backing up well. He scored 2 tries on the day and had a very good one. Now, Naden is a centre of genuine pace. He's a player of great skill. This is Least scoring a try for Cronulla. They came back later in the game and scored a couple of tries to even it up just a little bit. Eddinghausen showing his skills. I'd like to see this fella kept under consideration by the selectors. He's certainly got great ability, and playing with probably a side that were performing better, he might be a very, very good proposition for some sort of representative job. And here's a simple try. Petherbridge just coming straight and hard on the burst to score his 2nd try. And I must say that Cronulla looked very, very ordinary. But David Hatch came out, the captain of the Cronulla side, with a very good quote. He said, "Don't blame the coaches for our mistakes," referring to Jack Gibson. "Blame the players. The coach can't come out in the football field and do it for them." And how true it is, and I've been saying for years, footballers win football games, footballers lose football games. That's the way it's always going to be.
It was all Penrith in the first half, scoring 3 tries to nil in the first 40 minutes. Their first in the 20th minute, when fullback Rob Robards ran off Alexander to score. It was just 7 minutes later when Penrith went further ahead. This time, big centre Brad Izzard powered through the weakened Cronulla outfit to make it 12-2 to the Panthers. Then the scheming Alexander bobbed up with another try before the break, which he duly converted, and it was a commanding 18-2 lead at half-time. Alexander was in devastating form, and a 70-metre try in the second half, coupled with a 6-goal haul, gave him a personal tally of 18 points for the match. Cronulla scored some consolation points late in the match, but they were never in the hunt, as the Panthers ran out easy winners by 36 points to 12.
At North Sydney Oval, the Bears dominated proceedings for the first 40 minutes, scoring 3 tries to nil to hold a commanding 17-0 lead at half-time. The Kiwi connection of Graham, Friend and Filipina caused havoc with the shaky Cronulla defence, and Filipina had a hand in each of the 3 Bears' tries. After the first half onslaught, Cronulla were well and truly out of the match, and the Bears continued their picnic, running out easy winners by 27 points to 6.
At the Ronson field, the Roosters came up with the first try after Laurie Spina went through a yawning gap before sending Tony Melrose away to score. East scored again at the 24-minute mark, and then with 5 minutes remaining before half-time, when Brad Testman found the open spaces for Gary Prom, giving East a handy 14-2 lead at the break, and the Roosters were really setting Ronson alight. East scored the only try of the second half, and it was Gary Prom's second. The final score, East 25, Cronulla 2, with Tony Melrose contributing 13 points. Sweet revenge for the Roosters after their first-round loss to the Sharks.
The 12, and Cronulla Sutherland, the shock of the round, probably the shock of the season, 18 defeated Canterbury 8.
When Terry Lamb started and finished a typically smart Canterbury backline try after 14 minutes with some help from Chris Mortimer and then Steve O'Brien, it looked a matter of how far the Bulldogs. But Cronulla had other ideas, and from here on, to the surprise of all, they took control. After 31 minutes, halfback Scott Gustard stepped through some skinny defence to have the Sharks level 6-all at the break. The Bulldogs had a bad bout of distemper and the young Sharks were hungry for points. 11 minutes into the second half, Perry, Gustard and then Eddinghausen did the lead-up before Jonathan Docking took the final pass to plunge over and the Sharks hit the front 10 points to 8. Michael Porter, playing like he did in 1985 when he worried the defences with his bull-like charges, did it all by himself to send the Sharks to a 14 points to 8 lead. And fittingly, the Sharks left the best until last. Gavin Miller, who had a great match, started the try, with Michael Speechley, who sent Glenn Mortimer into the clear. He found Andrew Eddinghausen, who positioned Phil Hurst, who ran away for the Sharks' 4th try. Cronulla easy 18 points to 8 winners.
Early in the match at Redfern Oval, Tony Rampling and David Hatch had a difference of opinion that put Rampling in the sin bin for 10 minutes. The hungry Sharks were unlucky to have an earlier try disallowed before posting first points when Gavin Miller offloaded for Scott Gustard. The Rabbitohs came up with their first try when the ball travelled out along the backs for Brett Ross, who perfectly drew the defence for Neil Baker, giving both teams 6 points at half-time. South broke the deadlock only minutes into the second half when Jason Moon skirted down the touchline before passing to Bronco de Jura. But the Sharks weren't beached yet, storming back with a penalty goal and a converted try to take the lead for the first time, 14-12. However, South kicked a penalty goal in the latter stages, leaving the final score at 14-all.
At Ronson Field, Canberra continued their record of not winning away from Seaford Oval this season. Cronulla's rookie winger, Sean Watson, playing only his 3rd first-grade game since coming from the Riverina this year, had a day he'll always remember. He began with a couple of penalties, then finished off the opening try to give the Sharks a 12-0 half-time lead. Good work by Michael Speechley and Mark Magor in the second half set up the Sharks' 2nd try. And when Sean Watson duly added the extras, he had a personal points tally of 14 points. Final score, Cronulla 18, Canberra 4.
Eels Stadium, one of Parramatta's favourite sons, mighty Mick Cronin, made his comeback after 5 months out of the game with an eye injury. 35-year-old Crow, as he's known, received an enormous reception when he played in the Eels reserve grade side for a full match. But the Crow's successful return was the only good news at Parramatta. After a promising start which saw Mark Coker send Mick Delroy flashing over, followed by this try set up by Paul Taylor for the zip-zip man Steve Ella, the Eels led 12-4 at the break. But in the second half, Cronulla stormed back. Mark Magor sent Sean Watson in for his first try, and the Eels' lead was trimmed to 14-10. Watson went in again soon after some good lead-up work by Eddinghausen. And with Watson's conversion, the Sharks were in front 16-14. Gavin Miller's learnt his trade well in England with his great pass to send Craig Diamond in to score, and the Sharks led 22-14. Finally, a crossfield kick by Phil Hurst with some work from Stuart Raper, and Mark Magor throws himself at the post to score. The Sharks 28-14 winners. Cronulla opened the scoring after just 7 minutes with a spectacular try. After Andrew Eddinghausen went down the sideline, he centre-kicked and winger Phil Hurst beat Gary Schofield in an exciting race for the ball. But the Tigers, missing 6 regulars, hit back 3 minutes later when Paul McCabe and Gary Schofield did a neat run around before Ryan and Conlon combined for Russell Gartner to score in the corner. The Tigers' big second rower Paul Sirenen was creating havoc out wide, and when he unloaded a clever pass to send Ron Ryan flying over, Balmain led 10-8 at half-time. When Robert Jackson plunged across from dummy half, the Sharks led 14-10 before Balmain sealed their gutsy win with a smart try. Fullback Ron Ryan handled twice, taking the final pass from Mick Campbell to make it easy for Ross Conlon, and the Tigers clung to 5th place with their tight 16-14 win. Down south at Wollongong, it was a dour struggle. The Sharks scored the first try after 20 minutes. Just when they were going nowhere, Jonathan Docking came off skipper David Hatch to dash over in a handy position. Cronulla ended their scoring for the match 5 minutes later with the clever Gavin Miller making the try possible. He found Andrew Eddinghausen, and the youngster pinned his ears back and headed downfield before drawing the defence and sending winger Phil Hurst across in the corner, and the Sharks led 12-0 at the break. Illawarra, who find tries hard to come by, got their only one 15 minutes into the second half. Seamus O'Connell started things rolling before Jeff Hardy penetrated. He found Steve Worthington, who looped up a pass for O'Connell to plunge over. But it wasn't enough, with Cronulla hanging on, winning 12-6, leaving the Steelers at the bottom of the premiership table with Canberra.
At Ronson Field, the Magpies' chances of winning 3 on the trot took an early setback when Mark Magor offloaded a perfect pass for his centre partner, Andrew Eddinghausen. The Magpies equalised at the 30-minute mark when Ian Schubert lofted a long pass for Paul Sheehan, who turned it back inside for Michael Neal to score. However, the hungry Sharks went to the break leading 10-6 after Michael Speechley followed through a well-judged kick from Phil Hurst. Cronulla pressed home their advantage in the second half, scoring 3 tries to 1 for a convincing 26-12 victory, dashing Lee Crooks's hopes of leaving the Magpies in a blaze of glory before heading home to England next week.
Despite tackled once,
Has finished their season with a club record score against the Gummy Sharks. The first of their 8 tries came when Greg Clements grabbed a kick and Brad Izzard pounced just in time to score. The second try also came from the kick through. Half Gary Longhurst grubbed and Izzard and Rob Robards fought for the try, Robards scoring it. Big Darryl Broman in his farewell match for Penrith sent Izzard into a gaping hole, and he had either David Lydiard or Ken Wolfe to choose from. He chose Ken Wolfe, who got the pass and the try. Brad Izzard has waited all season to show his best. This is why he's called Wiz. He does it all by himself against the Sharks, who badly need some help from a doctor on this effort. Totally out of character on their good recent displays. After leading 26-4 at the break, Penrith piled on the points. A neat reverse play by Broman and Greg Alexander ended with Greg Clements scoring, and Penrith got their highest score since 1976 when they beat North Sydney 43-9. The Panthers, in a stunning result, win 50 points to 14.
St George, they blew their semi-final playoff chances with only 1 point out of an 18-all draw with the Canberra Raiders. Parramatta 22, Manly 6, and North 17, Cronulla 10.
At Ronson Field, the Sharks had most of the early running, but the Bears scored the first try at the 16-minute mark when Fred Teasdale forced his way over. 5 minutes later, the Bears moved further ahead through prolific try scorer Greg Lennon. Just before half-time, the Sharks bit back when Mark Wakefield scored. However, the Bears still held a 12-8 lead at the break. The first 20 minutes of the second half was evenly contested before the Bears got some breathing space when Nigel Tate went over wide out. With 5 minutes remaining, the Sharks missed a golden opportunity to equalise when Andrew Ettinghausen dropped the ball over the line. The Bears put the issue beyond doubt when Mark Cannon potted a field goal, but despite winning 17-10, the Bears will need to improve on today's form if they're to beat Balmain on Tuesday.